going up here, ready to read and try and intercept that. You can tell who the LAN rookie is just based off of their movement. But you see that like, oh, should I go? Should I go? Oh, I don't think I should go, right? There is nobody in RLCS who'd be saving that. You're better than that. So the full major has just concluded and we saw Moist Esports and GenG make it to the final, both of them having adversity in the Swiss stage. As you can see here, Moist almost reverse swept themselves in the Swiss stage. GenG had a harrowing loss to Oxygen, and that meant that they sorted it all out in preparation for the top 8, where they both had some tough matchups along the way, but ultimately got to the final looking like the best 2 teams at the event. And we'll be looking at their replays now to see what went on. And if you look at the scores here, for the most part, GenG, GenG scored a goal in every single game, which is great. Moist only missed out on 1 game, but you can just see across the board, GenG look like the better team just by the amount of goals they're producing. And in particular, as the series went on, they downloaded Moist. I think early on, they looked a bit uncomfortable, and actually we'll be analysing their comms in a little bit, so you'll be able to see that in that. But we'll be watching the gameplay, and I think the best thing to do is look at some of the stats. So when we look at the stats, we look for the indicators of performances and who did well, who didn't do well, and any interesting stats that stand out. And in particular, apparently Jack had an amazing final. He was on something in that final, scoring so many goals. Look at this. Was just finishing everything. Nolly was also incredibly clutch. His passing was unreal. Like, he was coming out with some of the best passes in the world. I mean, just looking at the final game, the 3 passes that he did to initiate the goals were amazing. And actually, Chronic underperformed in the final quite a lot. I think he was a little bit nervous. It was his first ever LAN. He's one of the few LAN rookies to win a RLCS LAN now. I think it was Scrub Killer is another one. The 3 BDS players, and like, I guess if you go back in time, you could look at like the original winners of the first LANs and stuff like that. But Chronic has set a new record in that sense, but he did look quite nervous in the final when it came through at moments. He was missing a lot of touches you'd normally do that would get him points, like for example, shots, goals, assists, that kind of thing. So that's where you tend to lose out on the points. On the other side, all 3 Moist players played pretty solid. Nothing that crazy stood out and went, oh, that wasn't very good. Like Astral wasn't scoring as many goals in this game, but equally was getting a lot of assists. They just weren't able to break through GenG because GenG's structure was too strong. If we look at the boost amounts, anything we notice here? I mean, instantly you notice Nolly and Jack's average amounts being nice and high. Chronic tends to be a bit lower, but that's fine. To be fair, it looks like Joyo and Rise have really worked on their boost management, because one of the big things I didn't like about Moist is the addition of Astral, who had one of the worst boost managements of any top player in Rocket League, took the place of Vatira, who has one of the best boost management of any player in Rocket League. So to switch those out, it really messed up the boost composition of the team. And I think it's meant Joyo and Rise have to be a lot more conscious of their boost amounts, and so consequently are keeping their boost a little bit higher. So fair play to them on that. Yeah, you can see here, Astral, quite a lot of time at 0 boost. Kind of links to his average amount. Tends to be a little bit more like a Liquid player in the way he's willing to boost down to 0. Nolly hates pads. I still don't understand how Nolly doesn't pick up more pads. That was one of my big things I tried coaching into him. Good pad usage by Jack. Good pad usage by Astral. Fair play. I think Astral's improved on this. Seems like Astral started being more of a pad fiend, which is interesting. Joyo goes for hundreds more, which makes sense. Rise is pretty balanced in the 2. All looking good there. A lot of amount used while Supersonics for Nolly and Rise and Jack, but they all do tend to go for some bumps, so that makes sense. Positioning wise, let's have a little look. Pretty balanced across the board. You can see here Nolly is the most back, which makes sense. But yeah, very balanced. This tends to be the case when you watch finals of big tournaments. You tend to see much more balanced out stats. Like this, Nolly is quite far away from the play, but then to be fair, Moist are quite boomy. You can see everyone's getting behind the ball quite well. That shows fast rotation speed. Like Astral is sitting very much behind the ball a lot. So that shows good fast rotation speed, not too much overcommitment. Movement speed, again, all in those 1500s. I mean, Chronic's a little bit lower, but like all in those 1500s. Again, you just see those balanced stats. All the grounded stats, like holy, Rise is very grounded, Nolly very grounded. Like this is an anomaly level grounded nature. But like you can see how the stats tend to be pretty balanced. Like, no one's got extreme negative stats. Like, I would say if anyone had a 50% or lower grounded stat, you'd be a bit concerned as to what they're doing. Jack's moving at supersonic quite a lot, but he tends to go supersonic more than the average player. So yeah, like, everything looks pretty good. I'd say Nolly, quite a lot of boost usage, but then he keeps his boost nice and high and uses quite a lot of supersonic. So it's because he's rotating deep, gets the back 100 and so on and so on. It's just sort of a part of his playstyle. So yeah, the stats across the board, nothing crazy standing out as a big negative. All of it makes sense. So if we get into the gameplay, we'll see what's going on there. I think being on the wall counted as grounded, yeah. Donkey dash attempt. Oh, the way Jack is moving is just beautiful. We love to see it. Okay, so it is watching GenG here. This is the first game of the series. Moist actually ended up winning this first game. Like, they were just looking so mechanical and clean. Joyo's car, unique design. Fun to see. Joyo always coming out with the unique designs. So I think for GenG, they just need to sort of work out what they were up against in this first game. Because they hadn't been challenged in the previous game against FaZe that much. So they're probably just trying to get used to what, oh my god, a chaotic team. You know, that kind of vibe. Like Liquid with that chaotic team. But you see goals like this. Like, good challenge by Astral right here. And then boom, Chronic's found himself too close to the play, does a little backflip. He probably would be able to get that. But you just see, like, they're not positioned for the chaos just yet. They're not quite in tune with the chaos. And they get used to it as time goes on. They're getting a little bit on edge, trying to get towards the play. Chronic definitely started the most nervous. You can see that in little moments like that. And that's where they'll probably spread out a little bit more and just let Jack be a bit of a ball chasey rodent. But you can see, like, there, the hesitation from Chronic. This is... You can see this. This is very conscious gameplay right here. So, what do I mean by that? When you're in a high-pressure situation, you get broken out of the moment because you're so focused on what the moment is. So, there's too much clouding your sort of sense to just chill out and play the game that you start having to be very conscious of what you're going to do here. So, Chronic is like... How am I going to hit this ball? How am I going to hit this ball? I'm going to hit this over to the right. I'm going to say I'm going to hit it over to the right. I'm going to hit it over to the right, right? And so he takes a very unorthodox, less fluid movement. You see here, fluid, not reading the players naturally, and then hits the ball in that way. You see, again, had to sort of compute that decision there, rather than just going for it. You see, as Jack hits the ball to him, like, had to compute it, went for the decision, and, like, as the series goes on, I'm sure we'll see them settle in a little bit and start to make decisions a little bit more naturally. Again, you see those awkward bounces, right? Now, this awkward bounce, I'm not going to lie, this is an awful bounce. I do not blame them right here. Right? That's just an awful bounce. But the way Chronic is moving right here is very awkward, right? For Nolly. Like, Nolly is, like, very awkwardly watching Chronic right here. Because this isn't normal movement for Chronic. So, Nolly misreads it, and again, it's an awful bounce. But that just comes from, when you get into the flow state, you tend to just read things so much better. But it's not actually that you're reading them, it's just you're putting yourself in better positions to read things. And what you can see here is they're getting themselves in one decision positions, which all it takes is a good touch to beat them. Good challenge here by Jack. As he's rotating out, you see where Chronic's positioned right here. Like when he moves up in this moment. Like when he's here. He's caught himself in an awkward position where he can't do anything here. Where if he was in a flow state, he would probably already be going up here, ready to read and try and intercept that. Or at least be on his way up there and then realize he can't make it and start going back, you know? So like the decision making here is reactive rather than preemptive. And then consequently, he's got this like weird, oh, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to go, right? And like, we compare that to the Moist guys. This is why Moist looks so good, is because they were just playing in their flow state, right? They weren't thinking, they were just playing. And that's why they do so well on LAN, is because they're just playing, right? Like there, like Astral's just not thought about that, he just goes, right? See, like right here, like Astral is so fast to this, and he's just feeling it, right? Again, like this kind of decision making, you see how flowy it is from Joyo, how smooth the movement is. Pretty good pass by Chronic. So yeah, like just looking at this whole thing right now, you can tell who the LAN rookie is just based off of their movement. Genius. So you can see like right here, right? Like the difference between this backflip here from Nolly and what we saw from Chronic is this is Nolly trying to preempt something, and then when the preempt fails, backing out, right? So that backflip earlier, that was him trying to make a decision early, backing out. Right here, trying to read Rise, realizing that actually can back out here to give Chronic the time to go, catches it, goes inside, sets up Jack, rotates out, right? So you can see like the difference in the cancelling of the movements is very much like, this is the better decision, I'm going to do this, rather than, oh, I can't read that, you know? So, like, watching this, and, like, Chronic played superbly well, considering how nervous he probably felt, and considering how much it's affected him. He's still playing really well. And also, fair play to Jack and Nolly. We've listened to the comms. I'm going to be doing some analysis of that later. The way they sort of settled him down and helped him get into the series a bit. And, like, you're only as good as you are in your worst games, and Chronic is still an amazing player in this series, despite that. But I can see that this isn't peak Chronic, right? Like, Chronic's going to come back and be even stronger in future events. Oh, actually, wait, let's just watch that again. Just want to watch that. Oh, he's good at them, isn't he? He's good at the old donkey dash. Like here. You see that? You see that exact moment there? It's very subtle. It's like very subtle, right? If Chronic was feeling it, he'd be up already on that and like, oh, the worst case scenario is I get a 50-50, right? But you see that like, oh, should I go? Should I go? Oh, I don't think I should go, right? And then comes back here and like, this is such a good goal by Rise. And this is why Moist did so well at this event. Like, credit to them. They just know how to flow, right? Like, I don't think I've seen Rise play this good at Rocket League outside of LAN environments, right? Like, he's got so much quality when it comes to LAN. You're blaming Nolly on this goal here. You're blaming Nolly on this goal here. You think this is Nolly's fault? Nolly is pushing up confidently because Nolly knows Chronic, right? Nolly knows Chronic as a player. And in this situation, normally, Chronic would have gone for this ball, right? So Nolly has been thrown off by a difference in his teammates' playstyle under pressure, right? I'm sure Chronic right now would tell you, be like, I would normally go for that, right? Right? You see what I mean? Right? Like, Chronic should have gone for this. Just off of pure confidence, should have just gone for that. And Nolly has pushed up, knowing his team and knowing that that is normally a situation that they'd go for it. And then consequently has overcommitted positionally there. Okay, there's some things Nolly could have done better here, right? Like, probably could have used less boost. You know, could have done some other stuff. And then in this situation, like, good luck saving this, right? Like, good luck saving that. Like, I don't think anyone in RLCS would be saving this. This is an outrageous goal. There is nobody in RLCS who'd be saving that. He has to get to that ball. How's he going to get to that ball? It's literally right at the top of the wall. Anyway. Again, like, Chronic's great. Like, Chronic's great here. I think this is... Wait, was it here? Okay. No, it was a bit back. Right, so this here from Chronic. Good patience, good decision. But you just see, like, that's not a comfortable dribble, right? Like, you can see, right, like, Chronic is just not quite comfortable yet. Which, to be fair to him, and to be fair to the team, he eased into it, and I think that's a lot down to the quality of the comms of the team. I normally can't comment on the quality of the comms in a team, because I don't normally get to listen to it. But they have released all their comms, so you can see what they do as a team to help Chronic ease into it. And at the end of the day, when you're inexperienced, you are going to struggle a little bit more. Then also you look at Moist, right? And this is what's allowed Moist to be so successful in this whole tournament, is they come out game 1 against every team they played against in that final Sunday, just feeling free, feeling good, playing their best Rocket League, especially Astral. Played unbelievable Rocket League. And it's all those little things, right? A lot of people under pressure, they start to waste more boost. With Moist, it seems like they hold more boost, right? It genuinely looks like Moist's boost efficiency gets better under land pressure. So we'll skip ahead a little bit and we'll watch the 4-1 game. Now there's a little bit of a back and forth. I think, actually, let me just break down what happened. I think this 1-0 here was a bit of a nervy GenG win. Let me, if we just go barely any shots across the whole game. So it's what, like 10 shots total across the whole game. Only 3 from Moist, 7 from GenG. So it was quite a low scoring game where, you know, there wasn't a huge amount of opportunities. This would have been GenG just trying to settle into the series and trying to, like, you know, compose themselves a little bit. And you see Nolly played really well in this game. It's all about those moments, right? Just having those moments. But when we go back and we start looking at this 2-1, that looked like GenG a bit more in control. And then I think Moist had a timeout and then they played well. And then we'll go on to this 4-1 now. So you see the start of this game is crazy. So many saves down in the at the bottom. And also what I really want us to do right now is just look at the difference in the movement of Chronic, right? Because you'll see how much smoother he is. Right? Just see how much smoother he looks right now. Right? You can see the difference between a nervous player and a not so nervous player. Just instantly looking at the way they're playing, right? Do you see the difference right here? Right? It's like night and day. And that's credit to the team environment. That's credit to Chronic as a player to ease into it. And it's also credit to, you know, getting a few wins can make a massive difference. Like, okay, he missed this, but I think got a little bit faked out by Joyo, right? As you would. I don't think that's too big a miss. Okay, maybe he could have scored it. And maybe if he, like, he's probably still a little bit nervous, but, like, I don't think that's a major issue. It's more just the way he's flowing around the pitch, right? And you can really see the difference in that. And I think he was the main player in my mind who wasn't naturally flowing in this final. I think we saw a little bit of Joyo and Rise at earlier points in the tournament doing it, where Astral hard carried the team because he was so flowy. And we can see how Jack has flowed incredibly well this whole tournament. But yeah, like, you can see how much more value he's getting. And it's crazy how much of this is key to Rocket League, right? I think a lot of you might underestimate how important it is to have that flow state. Like, there is an obvious point where it's learnt behavior, right? Like, the GenG guys are a great example of that. They have grinded their way to be in these positions. But the reason why they grind is so that when they get into a high pressure moment, it does just feel like second nature. And, like, this is something I've always struggled with as a coach, and something that I've definitely valued way more now as I've got older as a coach and spoken to more players and experienced them more, is at times the teams that I've coached have become they think too much, right? And it's something that now, if I were to coach a team, I would put so much more value on do the teaching beforehand. When we get into that environment, just go out there and play well. And like, you know, people have joked about the have fun meta, but ultimately the have fun meta is referencing the flow state, right? Like when I spoke to my Season 7 boys when they went out on stage, you know, like people asked, what did you say before you went out? And I literally just went, go out there and have fun, boys, because there is nothing more you can do at that point. The 6 months leading up to that tournament where you've grinded out as hard as you can is the key to success. Like, no coaching is going to get you to do this more often. This is just pure, I've put the work in and I've got a vision for the game, right? And that's just beautiful slottage by Jack, right? You can't teach that kind of stuff. I mean, you can in the lead up. Like, you can work on ways to make those things more likely, but that just comes from practice, good mindset, hard work, and like efficiency in all of your game to get yourself in those positions more often. Good defense. Oh, that was genius by Jack. I think that was commed as well. Oh, this is the go fast moment, right? This is the one where I think, let's watch from Chronic's point of view, because I think Chronic says go fast to Jack, which is obviously a great call, right? He's basically saying Joyo's there. And like, Jack jumps at it, up at it, and afterwards, I mean, we'll watch when we do the comms thing, but afterwards, Chronic's like, just so you know, when I say go fast, it means there's someone there. Like, I just want to make that clear. And it's like, why are you clarifying this in the final, you know? Like, bless Chronic. Like, I think as soon as he said go fast, Jack knew exactly what he needed to do. And that was probably the key to that goal, was that call of go fast was so important to let Jack know that he needs to just jump at it straight away. Just so good. Yeah, Nolly said that to him. Exactly. And you can see the difference, right, in Chronic now versus earlier. And we know why Nolly said that, because in that game when Nolly had to make that tough read on the Rise backboard double tap that was near impossible to defend, the reason why that was the case was because he thought Chronic was going where Chronic normally would just go. And so he could recognize that in him. Jack? Come on, Jack, man. You're better than that. Honestly, we should revoke his full major MVP after a shocking shot like that. Nolly could have scored that. No, I'm kidding, guys. It's all just a joke. Let's go into this final game, though. Let's have a watch of this, then we'll conclude it. I want to watch this from Moist's point of view, because I don't think Moist played bad, per se. I think they should be pretty proud of their performance. I just think GenG were very good at punishing them for their style of challenging and their style of outplay. Yeah, this is the game with Nolly's passes. Okay. Like, when we watch this back now, I remember at the time thinking, surely Rise gets that. But we just watch Rise's point of view that whole time, right? So we got to see the reason why he struggled on this is because he was boost starved, right? Like, this whole time he had no boost, so he had to be predictive. He never felt comfortable. Nolly just waits for Astral here. Okay, it could have gone better, right? Like, it led to a goal. But this was their strategy against him. Like, if you do this more than you don't do this, could have been a better 50. But, like, the idea here is the right idea, right? He should have been trying to 50 that off to the back left a bit more. Whereas when we watch from Astral's point of view, this is where Moist were looking so good on LAN, is teams were jumping at all these kinds of things and then giving them the value. But yeah, you can see, like, the reason why that didn't work on this occasion. GenG tried to force a play. Chronic probably shouldn't have gone for that. And Jack probably should have not followed through and got the boost there. Right? Once he followed through and got the boost, he had to go all the way through, right? But Jack should have been rotating back here, in hindsight. But then equally, Nolly could have got a better 50. So it's just where GenG left themselves vulnerable for a brief window. Following their game plan, like Nolly followed the game plan of wait for them to waste their 100 boost and then play out of it. but because he was left alone for so long, there wasn't as much room for error. And that's where his poor 50-50 led to a goal against. And like, okay, it was Nolly's fault, but at the end of the day, he was left alone for a while. So like a combination of all those factors. Interesting. It's also good 50 by Astral. Like Astral was doing that all tournament long. Was the ending of all of his plays would end with some kind of 50-50. So like the bare minimum out of his plays was a 50-50. Again, we spoke about Chronic being a little bit nervous. It's moments like this where I feel like online Chronic would have sunk that, you know? So like, I think it's fair to say Chronic didn't offer as much value as he often does. Like Chronic looked like one of the best players in the world online for GenG. And at this event, he looked good, but he didn't look as good. So with experience, I think GenG still have another gear if Chronic can get more comfortable on LAN. So a lot of you were saying about the boost used while supersonic, right? Like Nolly is using a lot of boost off the ball to try and threaten bumps as part of his movement. And get those boost steals as part of his movement, which is where you tend to see people use a lot more use while supersonic. Oh, I missed that boost, but it's fine. Great 50. See, that speed of decision means that Joyo now has no boost. You can see how these little moments happen, right? Like right now, we're about to see a goal come, right? That little decision by Nolly to turn and go back via that 100. And maybe, if we watch Joyo's offense, the fact that Joyo went for that, then went for that boost, then went this way, those tiny little decisions on how they collect resources and the difference in mindset. Like Moist think, if I get this touch good, then we might score. Whereas GenG's mindset is a little bit more, I'm not going to go, I'm just going to go back, get boost, reset. Right? And it's these little moments that can often lead to goals. And that's where the overall mindset for GenG is so powerful, the sustainable efficiency mindset. And like, okay, Joyo right here has got 30 through pads. But you know, like he's not moved the way he wants to. He's not got as much boost to recover a situation. He's having to be more predictive. And then boom, misses out. And we can also say, you know, obviously, Rise makes a mistake here. You know, it's also fair to say that's a good touch by Chronic. Hard to read, Rise makes a mistake. But the whole idea of the way you play is to try and reduce the negative damage of mistakes. You know, there's 3 players. If you have all 3 players playing well, you reduce the likelihood of those negative decisions to affect you. And in this situation, Rise's bad mistake there has led to more negative because of the fact now Joyo doesn't have as much boost to cover for him here. Nolly makes an amazing pass over to the side. Jack centers it beautifully. Chronic plays confident and fast and gets that ball. Astral's on low boost, and so he's on the backboard and all this kind of stuff, right? Like Astral's sort of stuck in no man's land. And like, yeah, it works out that way. This is where, when we talk about the first person in Rocket League, how they can take risks, this is the reason why, right? So Joyo right here has followed through on that ball and has followed through as a risky decision to go upfield for their boost. This boost steals the opponent, puts him in a weird location, opens up the opportunity to bump, and so on and so on. So when you see the first person taking risks in Rocket League, the reason why it's so good is because if they do mess up or do get beaten, then they have value off the ball upfield, right? And you can see that right there is a great example of that. And this bump here on Jack was enough to throw off the whole team because Nolly challenged thinking that Jack would be behind him, right? Maybe Nolly should have challenged here instead, to be honest. If Nolly challenged there, then it would have been a bit better. So maybe Nolly is to fault a little bit with the timing because Jack was ready for that if Nolly challenged straight away, and then it actually threw off Jack a little bit in the situation. I don't know how that came across in comms. That could be a little bit of making a slight misdecision in this moment, and so on and so on. Maybe it's just respect to Astral because Astral has been so deadly. Their game plan was to let these guys do their thing and then punish them at the end of their play rather than going early and giving them value to their play. So there's all sorts of reasons that could have gone into this decision by Nolly. Comes in second time round, because Jack got bumped, I think Chronic needed to go here early, but because of the whole bumping situation, got a little bit thrown off by it all. So he just needs to go there, but he misreads it all. And you could say here, actually, if Chronic rotated a bit further away, right? So off the back of this, if Chronic just off the back of this straight away, and this is something you guys can learn from, just tanks it away like this with speed. Okay, it takes him further away from the play, but he might be able to see it a bit better. So something to think about. I don't know if this situation it would have been appropriate because he did just get bumped. But this is why rotating across the pitch out of the way. Like if he landed a bit better, rotate the opposite side of the pitch. You know, if at this situation, let's just fly to where I'm sort of suggesting he'd be at this moment. Like if he'd went a bit quicker, he would be here at this moment, right? And then as that ball comes across, at this point, he'd be able to see the bump happening, right? Right? So it would be obvious to him to go. And that's part of the reason why rotating a bit further away from the play sometimes can give you better vision, so you can make better decisions. But we saw from his point of view, he actually rotated through the middle of the pitch. It's a little bit awkward to see what's going on with that camera switch and so on. So not able to make a decision as informed. That's where comms can come in useful. So there are ways that he could have improved that a bit better, but like ultimately these are like min-maxing like crazy, and hindsight very powerful here. You know, Joyo's bump is something that's really hard to account for and so on and so on. But it's something just in general play to look out for, is if you rotate further away from the play, you often increase your likelihood of being able to make the better decision. It's not that much further, it's just enough that you can see a bit more, which is where the opposite side of the pitch becomes very valuable. That's what Jack does a lot of the time, right? If you watch Jack play, he's often got a very good vision of the pitch because he's on the opposite side of the pitch, you know, like right here. He can see everything that's going on. See right here, can see everything that's going on. So the amount of times you'll watch Jack's point of view and you'll see him in a position where you can see everything that's going on. Right here, can see everyone. Make an informed decision. What a play, what a play, what a play. But yeah, you can see from Jack's point of view, you can see the vision that he has. So right here, beautiful pass by Chronic. That's where their comms come in so valuably. Nolly, genius pass, lovely finish. What a winning goal to win the major. Huge props to the selfless players out there, like your Nollies, like your extras, like your Itachis, who don't get as much credit as they deserve. But obviously Jack and Chronic played amazingly. Shout out to Chronic for settling into the series. Shout out to Jack for playing some of the best Rocket League we've ever seen. And shout out to Moist for showing what LAN players can look like. Those players who step up under pressure, perform fluidly and comfortably on stage. And I hope to see Moist continue this and hopefully make San Diego so we can see a little bit more of it on stage over there. But that was an amazing final, a great way to end it. And let me know what your favourite moment from this final was and who your MVP was. For me, I think the unsung hero is the comms, which is why I'll be doing the comms video in a bit.